When you think of the World Cup, you think of glory. You think of heartbreak. You think of billions of dollars, screaming fans, and the greatest athletes on earth. What you don't think about is dirt and grass, but mostly the sheer existential panic of the people trying to keep that grass alive. Last video, we covered the farmers who grow the grass, but the farmer's job ends the moment the truck pulls into the stadium parking lot. That's when this job starts. The groundskeeping crew unloads it, rolls it out, drainage cells, irrigation systems, and ventilation built specifically to keep it alive. At MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, the venue hosting the World Cup final, crews received 23 truckloads delivering around 8,500 square meters of freshly grown grass. During that installation, a downpour of more than half an inch of rain fell in just 2 hours. The head groundskeeper didn't take cover. Yesterday, while everyone else was taking cover, I was out with an umbrella just walking the turf, trying to understand exactly how it took that rain, where the water went, how quickly it dried, what was the surface firmness, how did it feel underfoot. That's the job in one sentence. While the world shelters from the rain, the groundskeeper walks into it because the grass is their responsibility now, and they need to know everything about it. Now here's the part that should genuinely sound impossible. 5 of the 16 World Cup stadiums have roofs of some form. NRG in Houston, AT&T in Dallas, Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. Domes, covered structures, beautiful for fans watching in air-conditioned comfort, terrible for grass, which is a plant and requires sunlight to survive. Without supplementary lighting, the grass simply will not photosynthesize enough to recover between matches. So engineers installed massive grow light rigs inside these stadiums. Banks of LED lights hanging from the ceiling, lowered down over the pitch, run for hours, then retracted before the next match. In domed stadiums, the grow lights are switched on for 12 to 14 hours per day, so there is enough light for the grass to grow. 12 to 14 hours of artificial sunlight. Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium was described by University of Tennessee researchers as one of the most difficult World Cup pitches to maintain due to limited direct sunlight, requiring a combination of LED grow lights, an extensive irrigation system, and a shallow root zone just to keep it alive. And someone has to manage all of this. Someone has to check that every section of grass is getting enough light, that the rigs are working. Here's what a groundskeeper's actual day looks like during the World Cup. The field crew tests the pitch daily for hardness, traction, and moisture levels. Based on testing, the team determines how much water the turf receives. Then they mow. In the height of the summer, we mow 6 days a week, says Mark Mello, director of turf management. Sometimes we'll be mowing even 2 times in one day if we have to. Why does mowing frequency matter so much? Because the height of the grass directly changes how the ball rolls and bounces. Cut it too short, and the surface plays fast and hard. Too long, and the ball slows down unpredictably. Then comes watering. Watering comes immediately following the final cutting the day before a game. Crews have windows on match day of when they can water, including before kickoff, at hydration breaks and halftime. Keeping the grass wet during play, a FIFA requirement, to ensure the ball rolls smoothly. So the groundskeeper isn't just maintaining the grass between matches, they're actively managing it during the match itself. Halftime is a window to water the pitch, not a break. And through all of this, crews are tracking 50 separate measurement zones on each pitch, 50 individual spots monitored continuously for consistency. Not the whole field as one unit, 50 individual zones. Because if one corner gets slightly drier than the other 3, the ball behaves differently in that corner. And in a World Cup match, that difference matters. Line painting is one of the most underrated parts of this job, and it's entirely the groundskeeper's responsibility, from the first measurement to the final touch-up, right before the teams walk out. Here's why it's harder than it looks. Every single line on a World Cup pitch has to meet exact FIFA specifications. Every penalty box, every corner arc, and here's the stakes. VAR cameras are reviewing footage frame by frame for offside decisions measured in centimeters. If a line is even slightly out of position, it's not just an aesthetic problem. It could affect the outcome of a match watched by hundreds of millions of people. So the groundskeeper starts with a string, stretched taut across the entire length of the pitch, anchored at both ends, creating a perfectly straight guide path for the painting machine to follow. Without that string, even the steadiest hand on the most advanced machine will drift. The string is the backbone of every line on the field. The paint dries within 15 to 30 minutes under optimal conditions. Because at a tournament where broadcast setup, media access, and match preparation all happen on a punishing schedule. Wet paint on a pitch is not an option. It takes 3 people nearly 2 hours just to lay out and paint the boundary lines on a single field. At a World Cup venue handling multiple matches, this process happens repeatedly throughout the tournament. Lines fade under foot traffic, get scuffed by studs, and need refreshing before every game. That's the groundskeeper's crew doing it every single time. The single white dot that every match on Earth begins from, the grounds team stretched a string across the pitch days in advance, pushed a small metal nail into the mathematically exact center, and left it there as a reference point. On match day, a stencil gets positioned over that nail. The groundskeeper then carefully paints around the existing halfway line and blends the fresh paint into it. So the entire thing looks like one continuous pass, not 2 separate jobs meeting in the middle. Here's what happens when the groundskeeper's job fails. At the Copa America, the tournament that served as a preview for the World Cup, the field at MetLife Stadium had brown patches, while the pitch at Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium was described as hollow by Canada's Camel Miller and a disaster by Argentina's goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez. And at the 2024 Copa America tournament opener in Atlanta, players said the ball sprang off the field like a trampoline. A trampoline, at the biggest soccer tournament in the Americas. That reaction goes everywhere immediately. Clips go viral. Players give press conferences about the grass. The host country is embarrassed on a global stage. That's the groundskeeper's nightmare. FIFA took those failures personally. World Cup chief Jaime Schiaggi said the pitch quality was of the highest importance, and the entire infrastructure was rebuilt from scratch to make sure it never happened again. Even with all this preparation, the SVP of facilities at SoFi Stadium summed up the feeling before the tournament. This hasn't been done before, and that quote matters. These stadiums were never designed to hold living grass. They were built for American football, artificial turf, concerts, events where the playing surface doesn't need sunlight, water, or oxygen to survive. A standard professional pitch can sustainably accommodate approximately 20 to 25 hours of intensive use per week before requiring rest and repair. And the groundskeeper is managing all of it. If the turf team has done their job, the grass will disappear into the game. That's the actual quote from the lead turf scientist on the World Cup project. Disappear. Not the grass will look great, not people will notice the pitch. Disappear. You spend months preparing. You lay down a living surface engineered to exact scientific specifications. You mow it 6 days a week. You water it at halftime. You measure 50 zones every single day. And if you did everything right, nobody thinks about the grass for a single second during the match. The ball rolls exactly the way it should. The players move exactly the way they train to move. The game happens, the goals go in, the celebrations happen, and the camera never once cuts to a bad patch. And somewhere under all of that, a person quietly checking their moisture readings, knowing that invisible is the best review they'll ever get. And if you missed the first part, how this grass traveled 1,000 miles before it ever got here, that video is right up there. Follow for more jobs hiding in plain sight.
Come on. Okay. Bro, let's go. We're so close. Oh my gosh. That was wow. We did it. Oh, they're going to throw confetti on me.